Okay, back to our deck. We had just been figuring out how many joists we might need. And now let's go on, let's work our way further down in the layers. And what is under the joists? The beam. The beam is holding those up. And the beam, there are actually two of them. One of them is called a ledger. It is a beam that's bolted to this concrete wall. Here you can see it in the isometric view. So there's that one, and then there's a beam out here in the front. And they're spaced 8 feet apart on center. And then the posts that hold them up are 8 feet apart on center as well. So if those posts are 8 feet apart, here in the front view, how big do the beams have to be in order to handle that size of span without bending too much? And think about some extremes. If you made a beam out of, I don't know, 1x2 slats, that would be way too flexible. That couldn't span 8 feet. If you made a beam out of a big old 12x18 chunk of solid wood, that would definitely be strong enough, but way too expensive and hard on forests. So let's think about what size could we use. We'll go on to our next table here, and we're going to figure out what size of beams we need given the post spacing that we have. And when this table says beam span, what that means is how far apart are the posts that the beam has to span. So if your beam spacing, that is the span that the joists have to stretch across, remember we have a ledger against the wall and then another beam out front. If those are 8 feet apart, then how far apart can the posts be? So here are the beam spans. That means how far apart are the posts that are supporting those beams. And here are our choices for Douglas fir. What size do you need? Well, we need something that will accommodate at least a span of 8 feet. So it couldn't be smaller than 8 feet. And there are two sizes here that are at least 8 feet. There are some that are bigger, but let's try to be efficient and use the minimum size possible. So here is one. We could do a 3x12 or attach two 2x12s together, or we could get a solid 4x10. That would give us a span of 8 feet 4. I think I would, if I were doing this, I would go with a 4-foot 4x10. Okay, now let's think about what size of posts we need. If our posts are too skinny, they will buckle and fall down. If our posts are too big, they'll be heavy and expensive. So let's try and find the one that's just right. And notice that, let me back up here. Notice that one of the columns here is labeled tributary area. So let us go think about what tributary area means. Here's a deck of some sort or other, and if this whole deck weighed 100 pounds and it were sitting on 4 posts, how much weight would be sitting on each post? Well, without knowing any rules or anything, you can probably easily imagine that, okay, 100 pounds divided by 4 posts, there must be 25 pounds sitting on each post. And to do that officially, the way you think about it is there's an imaginary dividing line in between each pair of beams and each pair of posts. And each one of those sections off an area that is called the tributary area. And the tributary area means that's the area that contributes a load to the stuff that is below it. let's think about a tributary area for our deck. So what do we got? We've got a ledger back here bolted all along the concrete wall, and then we've got two posts out here in the front. And it looks like our heaviest load is going to be one load on each post, so let's think about that. And the area, the tributary area, is going to be halfway between two supports and halfway between two supports. What does that mean? So here in the side view, we see that the two beams are 8 feet apart. That means halfway across is 4 feet and 4 feet. And then, by the way, we have a 2-foot overhang here. So on the side view, we see we have 4 feet plus 2 feet. That's the width of that area going this direction. In the front elevation, our deck is 12 feet wide, so that means halfway across is 6 feet and 6 feet. So how big is the tributary area over each post? In the side view, we've got 4 plus 2. That is 6 feet deep. In the front view, we've got 6 feet wide. So this tributary area is 6 feet by 6 feet. What is 6 times 6? 36. So our tributary area, our area that one post has to support, is 36 square feet. So what? So what size of post do we have to use? What is the very smallest post we could use? Your posts, we are told, are 8 feet high. And first of all, we notice that in any of these choices, there are quite a few posts that are more than 8 feet high. We have a tributary area of 36 square feet. So here's the column for tributary area. 30 square feet is too small. We've got 36. 40 square feet is big enough. So this is the row we'll think about. 40 square feet. Will 40 square feet of tributary area handle a post that is at least 8 feet high? Oh yes, according to this, it will handle a post that is 14 feet high, no matter what size Douglas fir post you use. According to this, you could use a 6 by 6 or you could use a 4 by 4. That would be big enough to handle a tributary area of up to 40 square feet. And your tributary area is 36 square feet. Last table. What size of footing do you need to put under this thing? And that footing is that concrete pier block that sits under these posts. If your footing is too small, it will sink into the soil. So you need it big enough. And let's see what we've got here. Your posts are 8 feet high. Well, we have a bunch that are over 8 feet high, so that's good. Your beam span, here's your beam span. Your beam span is 8 feet. Here's the row for 8 feet stuff. Your joist span, here's the column for joist span. Your joist span is 8 feet also, so it's less than 10. So if we are thinking about 8-foot beam span, 8-foot joist span, and a post that's 8 feet high, it is looking like it would be fine to use a square footing that was 18 by 18. That's the minimum size we need. Yay! And so we could go down to Willamette Greystone and buy some of those, or we could pour our own. Last slide is about bracing. If you don't have braces, what you have is a parallelogram, and If this parallelogram is too high up in the air and some kind of sideways push comes along, the thing will slide sideways and fall down. At what point do you need braces at the corner? According to this wood guide that we've been following, this AWC guide, they and the Code Council say if your deck is more than 2 feet high, you need to have bracing in the corner. Is your deck more than 2 feet high? Why, yes it is. So do you need bracing? Yes you do. In order to be the most effective, you try to have these braces as close to 45-degree angle as possible. You might or might not be able to do that, but that's what you try for. So there you are. There is our first run through designing a deck.